Welcome you all to Prega News, and I am Juliet. I'll be discussing about amniotic fluid in pregnancy. This is a very vital topic that has to be understood by each and every pregnant woman because this is something not very natural, but at the same time, it is something that has to be aware of. So let's understand what is amniotic fluid in pregnancy. Amniotic fluid is basically a very clear yellow fluid which is found within the first 12 days following conception within the amniotic sac. It surrounds the growing baby in the uterus. There are certain basic facts that everybody should understand. At first, amniotic fluid consists of water from the mother's body, but gradually the larger portion is made up of baby's urine. It also contains important nutrients, hormones, and antibodies, and this also helps to protect the baby from bumps and injuries. But the only thing that a pregnant woman need to understand is the level of amniotic fluid. Basically, if at all the amniotic fluid levels goes down, it becomes uneasy or pose problem. Else, basically, it is the two factors which leads to problem, that is when the amniotic fluid goes low or it becomes too high. Both the cases, the pregnant woman is supposed to consult a doctor. Next, here you can see a picture showing you the amniotic band. Basically, from this picture we need to understand how a baby grows. So again, what is this amniotic fluid? While a baby is in the womb, it is situated within the amniotic sac. Amniotic sac is nothing but a bag formed of two membranes, the amnion and the chorion. The fetus grows and develops inside this sac, and basically the sac is surrounded by the fluid that is named as amniotic fluid. The most common question, that is the where and how this amnion is found. The amnion is found on the innermost part of the placenta. Basically, here you can see the lines are the amniotic cavity, and it holds the amniotic fluid and helps in development of the embryo. And basically, the chorion on the other hand is the outer membrane that surrounds the amnion, the embryo, and the other membranes and the entities in the womb. Next, another question that generally arises is what is the function of this amnion and chorion? The amnion acts to protect the developing embryo against the mechanical shock, whereas the chorion and the allantois are involved in gas exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, while allantois transports the nutrients to and waste from the embryo. Next question that basically comes in mind is that what comes first? Is that the amnion or the chorion? It is basically the amnion because amnion is the membranous sac which surrounds and protects the embryo. It is the first of the three cavities, amnion, chorion, and the yolk sac in the embryo. Here in this picture you can see initially the fluid is comprised of water produced by the mother. By another 20 weeks of gestation, this is entirely replaced by fetal urine. As the fetus shallows and excretes the fluid, the amniotic fluid also contains vital components such as the nutrients, hormones, and the infection-fighting antibodies. Next, we think of are the amnion and chorion are the part of placenta? The placentas are basically composed of three layers. The innermost placenta layer surrounding the fetus is called as amnion, whereas the outermost of the placenta is known as chorion, comes into contact with the endometrium. It is composed of two layers of cells, that is inner cytotrophoblast and outer cytotrophoblast. Another thing that has to be focused is that whenever the amniotic fluid turns green or brown, this is a basic indication that the baby has passed meconium before birth. Now, what is this meconium? It is the first bowel movement. Meconium in the fluid can be problematic. It can cause a breathing problem, and it is called as meconium aspiration syndrome. This basically occurs when the meconium enters the lungs. In some cases, babies will require treatment after they are born. Next comes some of the functions. Amniotic fluid is responsible for protecting the fetus, temperature control, infection control, lungs and digestive system development, muscles and bone development, lubrication, umbilical cord support, protecting the fetus. Here, the fluid becomes the cushion for the baby from outside pressure, acting as a shock absorber. When it comes to temperature control, the fluid insulates the baby, keeping it warm and maintaining a regular temperature inside. Infection control. The amniotic fluid contains antibodies, and this prevents the baby from getting infected. Lungs and digestive system development. By breathing and swallowing the amniotic fluid, the baby practices using the muscles of these systems as they grow. Muscles and bone development. As we all know, the baby floats inside the amniotic sac. It has the freedom to move about, giving muscles and bones the opportunity to develop properly. Lubrications. Amniotic fluid prevents part of the body, such as fingers and toes, from growing together. Webbing can occur if amniotic fluid levels are low. Umbilical cord support. Fluid in the uterus prevents the umbilical cord from being compressed. This cord transports food and oxygen from the placenta to the growing fetus. Looking towards this picture, here you can see the blue color indicates the deoxygenated blood from the mother that carries waste products from the embryo. The upper line is the uterus wall. Coming down to this picture, here we can see the blue color line showing the indicators, the arrow marks on the blue color lines are the deoxygenated blood from mother that carries waste products from embryos, whereas the outermost layer is the uterus wall, and here it is the placenta that protects your baby. Over here under the placenta, you can see this is the amnion membrane filled with amniotic fluid to protect the embryo. This is the embryo, and this is light blue color is the fluid known as amniotic fluid. This particular band is known as umbilical cord. After understanding what is happening inside, how it is helping the embryo inside, let's discuss some of the disorders that are being created because of this amniotic fluid. So basically, here on the left hand side, you can see there is a disorder known as oligohydramnios, and on the right hand side, it is polyhydramnios. Basically, from this picture, you can see we have two types of disorder that are popping out because of the low and high level of amniotic fluid inside the womb. First is your oligohydramnios, where you can see in this particular area, you can see the amniotic fluid level goes low, and because of that, this is the disorder being created. Next disorder is your polyhydramnios, that is because of high amniotic fluid level. Here you can see the embryo is submerged in this amniotic fluid, and this is creating disorder. These disorders will be definitely discussed and elaborated in the next video. So let's proceed. What else could be there? The count kicks, that we need to understand where there is a blue flag that comes to the mind and you have to run to the doctor. This may be evident in cases of leaking fluid from a tear in the amniotic membrane, measuring small for a certain stage of pregnancy, or if the fetus is not moving as much as it would be expected to. It may also occur in mothers with a history of any of the following conditions. Certain conditions are there which are supposed to be taken care of are prior growth restriction pregnancies, chronic high blood pressure, that is hypertension, problems with the placenta, for example, abruption, preeclampsia, diabetes, lupus, multiple pregnancies, for example, twins or triplets, birth defects such as kidney abnormalities, delivering past the due date, other unknown reasons known as idiopathic. Next is there are certain things that doctor may use the following tests. So we need to understand what are the tests. That is non-stress tests, biophysical profiling, fetal kick counts, and Doppler studies. Now, when we are saying non-stress test, what is this non-test stress? This is basically to check the baby's heartbeat at when it is resting and when it is moving. Next is your biophysical profiling. In this case, it is an ultrasound scan that can detect the baby's movement, muscle tone, breathing, and amniotic fluid level. This may be followed up with a non-stress test. Next, coming down to fetal kick counts, like how many times a baby kicks and the number of counts that has to be done. Next, coming down to Doppler studies. Doppler studies, as we all know, it is basically the sound waves to check the flow of blood in the baby. In some cases, doctor may decide that a labor will need to be induced in order to protect the mother or the child. Amnion fusion, amnion fusion is something that is the infusion of saline into the uterus. Increasing maternal fluids and bed rest may also be necessary. There are very higher chances of labor complication due to risk of umbilical cord compression. Amnion fusion may be needed during labor. In some cases, a certain delivery may be necessary. So with this, I wish that you all would have understood what is amniotic fluid and how it is functioning and helping the embryo to grow, whereas what all are the precautions that are supposed to be taken care of and what all are the indications and the risk factor. Again, we will be discussing all about in detail in our next videos. So do not forget to tune on Prega News for next upcoming videos. Thank you for watching my videos and do connect it to Prega News, and do not forget to click on the bell icon and hit the like button of Prega News. Please do subscribe, share and like my channel. Thank you.